Okay, Aidan, would you like to start? Thank you.
Afternoon, Roy. Can I start with a bit of injury news, please, if there's any?
Well, I think we may have lost Andros Townsend, which is a blow. He felt a muscle strain in the game against Arsenal. He hasn't trained before today, but he was desperate to try and see how it went, but he didn't complete the session. So we'll see tomorrow, of course. There's another day, but I'll be surprised if he makes it. But the good news was, of course, that Great has trained all week, and even Mamadou Sakho and Conor Wickham took part in at least the early part of our session today, not the more intensive part. So we're really quite blessed with not having many injuries, although it is a blow to lose Andros.
You mentioned Guaita there. Where do you stand as regards your goalkeeping position at the moment? Because Hennessy's done very well in the two games. I imagine you're not the sort of guy who would want to change for the sake of it.
Well, the fact is it's competition for places between those two. It has been all along. Certainly Guaita was the number one goalkeeper for a period of time, but when Wayne came back in, he's done well in the two games. So it will be really the usual sort of pleasant headache that you have, that whichever goalkeeper I choose, I have great confidence in, but I will have to make a choice.
What did you make of Leicester's performance at Southampton last Friday, and how different is it for an opposition coach to prepare to play against a team like that when you know their confidence is sky high, having scored a higher number of goals than normal in a game?
I think we'd have been sort of preparing for a very good team and a very good team performance, irrespective of the Southampton game. Obviously that sort of adds even more spice to the affair, especially as far as Leicester are concerned, because they're coming here on the back of two good results, because they won away in the week in the Carabao Cup. But that type of victory lives long in the memory, and I'm certain, as you say, really does add to the confidence. But it can't affect anything as far as we're concerned. We were preparing anyway to meet a Leicester team with many good players, obviously in excellent form. So we'll just have to hope that they don't do to us what they did to Southampton.
From what you've seen of them, are they possibly even better than the side that won the Premier League 3 years ago? Do you think they're capable of sustaining a title challenge this season?
I wouldn't compare, because I don't think that's the right thing to do, and it was an incredible achievement, and that was always going to be a historic achievement as well. So I wouldn't want to compare, but if the question is, could this team do the same, I would say most definitely with what they're showing at the moment, albeit they're going to face tough competition this year with Liverpool in such good form, and Man City, of course, the current champions, trying to catch up with them.
Jamie Vardy looks better than ever at the age of 32. As somebody brought him into the England squad, as you did a few years ago, is he somebody who possibly is now benefiting from not having the burden, if you like, of international football and the extra demands and the pressure that can bring? Is he playing with a little bit of freedom, possibly, and it's helping his game at his age?
I'm not sure, to be honest. From what I know of working with Jamie, that the England thing would have been a burden for him. I mean, he's obviously chosen to take himself out of the frame, but that could well be more to do with his, changed circumstances with his marriage, and obviously maybe feeling I'm getting a little bit older and I'm no longer necessarily going to be first choice, and I prefer maybe to step aside. I don't know. That's what I read at the time. I wouldn't have thought it would be difficult for him had he wanted to continue. I don't think it would have been a burden, and basically speaking, he's every bit as good, probably even better, because he's got more games under his belt and even more Champions League and national games under his belt than he was when we selected him. But he was very good at that time, very, very dangerous, and he's every bit as dangerous, if not more so today. I have great respect for him, and obviously we'll be treating him with the respect that his performances deserve.
Can I ask you about your reaction to the punishment handed down by UEFA to the Bulgarian FA this week? It was, as you know, £65,000, 2 games played behind closed doors, one of those suspended for 2 years. Lots of people within the game have reacted and said it was a bit too lenient. Can I ask your view?
Well, it is lenient, there's no doubt about that. But I think the problem goes wider than any fines, really, and any stadium closure. It's a problem which no amount really of money that you fine people or however many games you force them to play behind closed doors is going to go away. It's something that the Bulgarian FA are very much in the spotlight with it, and I can quite understand people questioning the leniency. But I think the most important thing is that people don't ever stop questioning the importance of putting an end to this racism wherever it shows its ugly face. And it's a subject which every time something like this happens gets more news coverage, and that for me is a very positive thing. So I don't think the actual amount of the fine is the important factor. It is the fact that racism exists, and we've got to do everything we can in football to get rid of it.
Stories around yesterday, late last night, I think that you were in talks to extend your stay here at Crystal Palace. Could you just bring us up to date on whether that's the case?
Well, Steve and I talk all the time, and sometimes these things get mooted. So of course, I suppose it's fair to say, that we're in talks, but I can't give you anything more than that.
You've been here just over 2 years now, and it seems surprising, but that puts you, I think, 9th on the list of longest-serving Premier League managers. Do you, it's a sign of the times, isn't it? But do you see your future being here?
Yes, I mean absolutely. If I'm to stay in football, then I see my future certainly being here. There's no question of that. I enjoy it very much here. I've been very happy in these 2 years, and it's really just a question of in discussions with Steve, making certain that they're as happy with me as I am to be at the club.
Your chairman said yesterday that he wants his club to compete at the very top end of the table going forward. Were you surprised, given that in the last 3 windows you've actually spent quite modestly?
Yeah, but that doesn't stop us maybe improving on that going forward. It's been special circumstances during these 2 years, and I certainly would never wish to counteract anyone's ambitions for their football club. I think it would be more disappointing for Crystal Palace and Crystal Palace fans if Steve Parish as chairman and the owners were going out saying we don't have an ambition to become better. We don't want to do what we see Leicester doing this year, for example. Really making life extremely uncomfortable for the so-called top six. So I applaud the thought. I applaud the ambition. But of course, for us to get there, our fans would need to know that Steve has got a longer term plan for that, and it's not something we can make happen overnight, because I'm not even certain it would be the right thing for suddenly hundreds of millions of pounds to be thrown into the football team and we start all over again with a totally different group of players. It's a question of adding the right players at the right moment in time and building on what we've been trying to do over the last few years.
Thank you. Can take the mic. Thank you.
Hi Roy, is there any element of fear in facing a team that's just 1-9-0 away from home?
No, I think you fear more if you're confronted with a tiger in the jungle. I think that's what real fear is. I don't know that the word fear is the right word to use when it comes to football matches, to be perfectly honest. We have a lot of respect for Leicester City. We're perfectly aware that they're capable of beating us, and that's not something we want to happen. And we know that they've got that ability to do it, so we're concerned about that. But at least we've got it in our hands to try and do something about it. And I wouldn't want to use the word fear. I think that would suggest that we don't have any faith in ourselves, and that we think that we're being confronted with an opponent that we can't possibly beat, and that definitely is not the case.
You've actually got quite a good record against them, haven't you? You're unbeaten in 5. Are they is it a different proposition now, Brendan Rodgers? How impressed are you with the job he's done in such a short period of time?
He's done a good job, there's no question of that, but I mean, a lot of these players have been brought in over a period of time as well. The club has, I think, been heading towards this situation they find themselves in now for a period of time, because several of the players that have been brought into the club were actually there, the Chilwells of the world, and these people, they've been the Harvey Barneses, the Chowdhuries, all these young players who've done so well for them. They've been at the club a period of time and have been well introduced by Brendan and even before him, Claude Puel. So I think the club has been building up to this situation, but of course they've employed a very experienced and very good manager who's obviously getting the very best out of the players as well. So it's a very nice marriage for them at the moment. They have a nice balance between youth and experience. The young players they've brought in are are all playing exceptionally well, and in the background they're still lucky enough to have the backbone, if you like, with the goalkeeper, Schmeichel, with Evans, with Ndidi and Vardy. That's a very good backbone of the team, and all of those, of course, have been doing it for a period of time now.
In the past 2 away games, you've come from behind. Are you proud and happy with how the character they show and how well they respond to going behind?
I'd rather not come from behind if it's possible. It's nice if you're in the lead. It's because in the Premier League, you know, the statistics of the first goal being decisive in terms of deciding the points, it's quite an impressive statistic, and we're aware of it. But it is important, you know, you can't always take the lead. You do find yourself going behind, and that's when you want your team to show the resilience, but also the belief that, you know, this game is not going to finish until the referee blows the final whistle. And all the time, you know, we're just 1 goal behind, we can always get back in it and get ourselves a result. And that's something we've shown, you know, consistently, I think, during the couple of years that I've been working with the team, and no more so than on last Sunday.
Emma at the back there.
Hello, Roy, sorry.
Okay.
Hi, back to that 9-0 scoreline. I just wondered, have you been on either side of a scoreline of that size as a manager or a player, and how does it affect a coach or a player going?
I would really need preparation time for these things. Don't forget, you know, I've got about 1,500 games, and I mean, it's a bit difficult. I'm always frightened of saying yes I was or no I wasn't, and then someone coming back to me and coming up with a statistic I've completely forgotten about. I don't remember many 9-0s, and if they existed, it would have been at Malmö, who had that capacity, but not in a league game. I think the biggest league game result I can remember was about 7 goals to 0. I can definitely say I've not actually been on the receiving end of 9-0, and I feel very sorry for people that are on the receiving end of that, especially at the highest level of football, it's like we're playing at now. The other night, whilst I was admiring, of course, Leicester's play, and, you know, like all football lovers, respecting and taking a lot of enjoyment even from the quality of their football. At the same time, you can't help but think about the person who got to stand in front of the cameras after the game. It's pretty easy to stand in front of the cameras when you've won 9-0, and very difficult to stand when you've lost 9-0. And on that subject, I thought Hassan Hoodle was fantastic after the game, the way he handled what I thought was a very difficult interview. But the bottom line is that there are teams in the Premier League now, and Leicester are proving to be one of them, who on a good day, when their football's working and their top players, who really are top players, are in excellent form, you know, the risk, I'm afraid, of getting beaten heavily is always there. And let's not forget too that Leicester didn't beat a team with 11 men 9-0. They did beat a team with 10 men 9-0, and I'm pretty convinced that the scoreline wouldn't have reached 9 had Burton not been sent off just before the first goal was scored. So all those things, for me now, they're historic moments, if you like. It was a really good Friday night's entertainment if you were a Southampton supporter and a neutral watching the game, of course. But I'm pretty sure that Brendan Rodgers has told his players to forget all about that. This is a different game altogether, and we're going into it as a different game altogether, and we won't be even mentioning the 9-0 scoreline. Everyone else will, but we won't be doing it.
You say that you and Steve Harris are in conversations about possibly a new deal for you. I wondered if you ever thought you would still be a Premier League manager at the age of 73, and if there's any such thing as being too old to be a top flight manager.
Well, I just read today or heard today that Donald Trump, who's a little bit older than I am, is planning to stay on as President of the United States for the next 5 years. And, you know, with respect, this is an important job I have here, but it's not quite as important as being the leader of the free world. So I must say I don't wake up every morning thinking how old I am. Occasionally I get questions like that, and I cannot deny it. But I can also but I can also deny that I don't actually feel 72. That's the problem, and that no one is going to make me feel 72 or make me feel that I'm too old. The day may come when I feel that way, but it certainly hasn't happened yet. And I must say, looking into the future and into a crystal ball, I don't know when that's going to happen.
There's going to be quite a big other sporting event happening over the weekend. I wondered if you're a big rugby fan and if you're going to, as a team, watch it together, or will you be able to watch the Rugby World Cup?
Well, we're training,
Yeah.
so we won't be watching it. That's the first thing. Secondly, I've had very good relationships with first Stuart Lancaster and now Eddie Jones, so I have a lot of respect for them as the coaches and the work they do, but I'm more interested in the game through their leadership and through my discussions with them and how they run their sports team, because football and rugby have got a lot of similarities in terms of looking after a group of players. If you ask me if I'm a big fan of rugby, then of course I have to answer no, because you've only got to look at me, and if you'd have seen me maybe when I was at school or when I was just starting to play football, only the most idiotic of people could have suggested I could play rugby. To play rugby you have to be a certain size, and as a result, of course, it's most of the games I've really taken a serious interest in games I felt I had some chance of playing, and rugby and basketball disappeared for me very, very early on.
Okay, Emma. Yeah. PA.
Roy, you mentioned you couldn't watch the rugby, but you have a message for Eddie Jones and his team?
I sent him a text anyway, and the message, of course, would be a massive well done, fantastic, congratulations. I think whatever happens in the final, they've acquitted themselves quite brilliantly. The win against New Zealand, the All Blacks, that in itself is something they're going to remember and dine out on for many, many years to come. I only hope now they can bring home the glittering prize. But whatever happens, I think that they've done more than enough for the country, and certainly more than enough for their sport. So there's no doubt that. And I enjoy watching it much more now than I perhaps have done years in the past anyway, but I still unfortunately will never get the real enjoyment of the game, which comes from you having understood it completely and played in it. But I wish Eddie all the best. I wish the team all the best, Owen Farrell and everyone there, and of course as soon as we can we'll be getting a glimpse of the TV screen, as long as it doesn't interfere with our training session.
Okay, lovely, thank you. That concludes the broadcast section.